Hello and welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. In the last episode, we were responding to the death threats that we were receiving, saying that we will survive. I really don't think we're going to survive. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to where we were. So we were just at the end of chapter 10, I believe. Let me go to the next page. Yep. So we're just at the end of chapter 10. And then we will go ahead and continue from here. This was the first time I'd ever woke with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. He knows. He knows when he's going to wake up. What a surprise. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. He's going to run to the school and he's going to grab that metal bat to protect himself. It won't help. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber. Why did he put instant cocoa on his bread? That's weird. That makes me uncomfortable. My, Keiichi, you're up early. Is there some sort of school event? Not really. Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat. You're leaving already? What about lunch? If you don't wait a bit, I can't make it. If I waited for her to make my lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Reina and Mion along the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to go to school alone. I'll be fine for today. Then what will you do for lunch? I'll slip out and buy some bread or something at the store. Really? Then here's some lunch money. Be sure to bring me back the receipt. I took the 1,000 yen bill from Mom and slipped it into my pocket. It's pretty early. Is Reina-chan up this early as well? No, just me. Did you tell Reina-chan that you're leaving early? I have no reason to tell her every little detail, now do I? Finding it difficult answering the onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed face. Tell Reina that I went ahead when she comes. Hey, Keiichi, wait! It's not that I didn't trust my parents. I just couldn't rely on them. He doesn't want his parents to get involved so they don't get murdered as well. They couldn't help me, I could only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. My mom's annoying voice was cut off by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. What a loner. Go ahead and open my water bottle here. Up until now, I'd always walked down the same path at the same time each day. So I always went with the same people at the same places. Or always met the same people at the same places. But today was different. I didn't meet the people I'd normally... What? English. I can English. I didn't meet the people I would normally, and nobody was at the places where I would have normally met them. Of course, Reina wasn't in the spot where we usually met, and there wasn't anyone at the spot where we would have met up with Mion. The length of the trees' shadows, the morning air, the brightness of the sun, it was a completely different type of morning from what I was used to. Without a doubt, it felt strange. It is quite odd when you wake up like an hour early. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion of Hinamizawa had set up for me before it had enough time to prepare all the props needed to deceive me. My, Keiichi-kun. You're so early today. Is everyone meeting early this morning? The person who called out to me was someone we already passed by as they were taking a walk along the edge of the field. Their name was, I forgot. Of course, this wasn't the spot where we usually passed each other. I woke up early today, so I thought it would be a good change of pace. That's all. I threw out a random excuse. What about Reina-chan and Mion-chan? Are you by yourself today? Of course he is. They're trying to murder him. Well, yeah. I was being asked the same type of questions my mom was asking. So I answered them in the same uninteresting, vague manner. It wasn't funny being asked where Reina was each time I passed someone, but maybe it was to be expected. It was because for so long we were always together so amicably. Even I felt that if I let my guard down, we could still be friends. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? But he is soft. He is a soft boy. That can be taken out of context. Beep, beep, beep. A car horn blared out from nowhere. It better not be Oishi. Even though I was walking lost in thought, that horn was way too close. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's hulking chassis was almost on top of me. I'd see plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It was veering towards him. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder and the van was swerving in my direction to avoid them. That blissfully ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. That large mass was hurtling right at me. Was it going to hit me? The inside of my head instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. Well, jump out of the way, dumbass. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself, had frozen. In the silence of that frozen moment, I compared the van, so close that I had no way to dodge it, and my body, the upper half twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There was no way I could dive out of the way in my position. If I lost focus now, this moment would unpause, and I would probably be plowed over, caught in this silly pose. Bend my upper body towards the patty by the side of the road. Is he about to get isekai'd? If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by the side view mirror. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the temporal stasis was shattered by the deafening sound of the van. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off through the air like a top locked in my contorted position. Kasplash! Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy patty by the side of the road. My entire body was soiled and drenched. But the choice I had made in that instant was unmistakably for the best. Well, yeah, you would have gotten isekai'd pretty fast if you didn't dodge. I was covered in mud. When the alternative was being hit by the car, it was the closest I could be to being unscathed. Rising out from the patty, I had enough in me to glare over at the stop van and yell profanities at the driver. I'm not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off suddenly. Wait, damn it! This is what they call a hit and run, wasn't it? I couldn't help but continue yelling out profanities. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than any physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy patty and made my way back onto the road. This is a crime. Gee, idiot. Shit, I'll track you down and sue you. If I go looking for a van, I'm sure to find it in this little village. The path I was on had rice paddies on either side, and it had become so narrow that one car could barely fit through. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone pass by pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side of the road than the other when it went past me. Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to suppress the dark cloud rolling up within me. Well, they just tried to run him over. This wasn't just a hit and run. That car just now was trying to run me over, wasn't it? Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. That's right, as soon as I'd parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had the feeling the whole time. If it had wanted to pass me, then it had no shortage of chances. Normally, I would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner. But I was lost in thought and was now kicking myself for not realizing it was there sooner. So now everyone in the village is starting to conspire to murder Keiichi. And then, when the path became narrow and there was no one else in sight, he floored it. If I had hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, the realization of just how terrifying the preceding events were sunk in. There was no doubt about it. That van was intentionally trying to hit me. A cold, vicious sweat seeped from my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. I struggled to avoid falling into a panic. There was still the possibility that this was really just an accident. Calm down, Keiichi. Again, he's being too soft. They were definitely trying to murder him. But also, don't be so naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. I think it'd be kind of hard to walk around on your tiptoes all the time, you know? Don't give them any openings. If my enemy was really out to kill me, then next time they would use a more reliable method. Like a bat, straight to the brain. If that time came when I was acting like I was now, I being covered in mud was the price I had paid for my own naivete. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. I guess this is what you would call the silver lining. I began walking again this time cautiously. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I had suspected only Reina and the others up until now. No, it was because I had suspected them that I had to believe there were no other enemies. Oishi-san had said so, didn't he? There was the possibility that all the families of the village were involved. Oh no! Was I really mired so deeply in this situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest just to hole myself up in my house? But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. That was just too horrifying of a thought. I recalled the tales Oishi-san told me of when Hinamizawa was still called Onikakushi. A frightening tale of an entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them, and eating them alive. One must not interfere with the demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemy were numerous, all the village families. The villagers, with their unwavering faith in the curse, would do nothing to help me. The strong, sudden flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. When I suspected it was the work of a man, I would catch a glimpse of Oyashiro-sama's curse. When I suspected it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No, what I really truly wanted to know was, how did I end up with the proverbial bullseye painted on my back? Eventually, an answer in a form I could understand will appear. I don't care when that will happen, because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight and will keep me alive. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out too well for him in the end. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before everyone else arrived at school. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber, nothing that I could bring into the classroom easily. Then, I had an epiphany. I should search inside the classroom. If it was something in the classroom to begin with, then there wouldn't be a problem. I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat. But it couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gym storage shed was open, I needed to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivety whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked at school. But such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I'd once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. That was an incredibly frightening thought. But I believe that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyways, I will survive. So long as I lived, there will definitely be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. I don't think he's going to escape. I think he's going to die. Definitely. Assuredly, 100%. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. That much was to be expected. There was no way there would be anything that could be a weapon in the classroom. Just use a pencil. They're pretty effective. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my own chair around. That does work pretty well, according to the anime. My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to be used for personal storage. The locker that Mion used to store her pile of games was among them. Among us, and there was a one for each person in the class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. Oh yeah, there was supposed to still be a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. I should go change later. But first, I need a weapon. If one of my classmates came, it would be hard to rummage through all the lockers. I swiftly began opening the lockers one by one. They were mostly just filled with things like gym clothes, personal items, and umbrellas. Umbrellas worked pretty good, according to an umbrella. If I couldn't find anything better, then this would have to be my weapon. I was about to give up on finding anything decent when I opened a locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was, without a doubt, a metal bat. It was well worn and pretty beaten up, but there was no doubt it was usable. In that locker that reeked of mold, there also hung a baseball uniform. Is this Satoshi's locker? It was probably the locker of a student in a Pee-wee league or something like that. If that was the case, then he'd probably ask for it back. At the time, I could hear the voices of children scuffling their way noisily in from the hallway. Amongst them, I could make out Rika-chan and Sadako. Good morning! My, you're quite early this morning, Keiichi-san. I nonchalantly hid the bat I was holding behind my back. What is with your outfit? You're covered in mud. Yeah, I had a little incident. I'm gonna go change now, so cut me some slack. That being said, I began taking off my clothes. Sadako began to blush just as I expected her to. Keiichi with the power moves. Changing in front of a lady? Have you no tact at all? I would think that a lady staring at someone who is changing would be the one lacking in tact. There's no changing room for boys, so just deal with it. As Sadako feigned disgust, she went into the hall, still blushing. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change. If Rika-chan is a lady as well, then I don't think it would be appropriate for you to be watching. I'm not a lady, so it's fine. Is Rika a pervert? She deliberately pouted and looked at me with upturned eyes. Then, starting now, you're a lady. If I'm a lady, then I suppose I must. Rika-chan, appearing to be satisfied with being considered a lady, made her way to join Sadako in the hallway. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me. Are you going to start playing baseball? It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat. Yeah, just, I was feeling a bit out of shape. So I thought I'd just try practicing my swing. I think it's wonderful you're taking care of your health. She was talking like an old lady, despite her appearance. After saying that, Rika-chan started to leave again, but stopped and looked back at me once more. Please don't lose that bat. It seems she already knew I took it out of someone's locker. There was no name on the locker door. I didn't know whose bat it was, but I would be borrowing it until they complained. It must be Satoshi's, which is Sadako's brother. At least I'm pretty sure it was Satoshi anyway. It wouldn't be for long, just until the gym storage shed was opened. After quickly changing into the tracksuit, I checked the time. I still had plenty of time before class began because I came so early. I took the bat in one hand and went out to the schoolyard. That was, of course, to practice my swing. I needed to make it known I would always have a bat on me so I could practice my swing. Swing! At some point, the sunlight had become even stronger. Disregarding my classmates as they made their way to school, I took my position in the shadow of the school building. I wasn't the academic type, and I wasn't much of an athlete either. You're just a loser. I might get muscle pain if I just suddenly started swinging. I should at least start out with some warm-ups. I doubt anyone would think I was doing something out of the ordinary, which was the exact opposite of my actual mental state. I gripped the bat and swung lightly. The bat was by no means light. What are you talking about? Metal bats are super light. The wood ones are the heavy ones. Unless it's like solid metal, in which case that'd be pretty heavy, yeah. The weight would make it a reliable weapon when I needed it to be. Of course, I could only pray that the moment I needed to use this as a weapon would never come. Just carrying it around could deter attacks against me. At least, that's what I hoped. Swing, 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 swing. Huh? Kei-chan? What are you doing? Being bombarded with such a hysterical voice, I jumped. Whoa, Keiichi-kun, are you on the baseball team? The baseball team? Are you sure? It was Reina and Mion. I was surprised to hear you went off ahead. What are you doing, Kei-chan? Can't you tell by looking? I'm practicing my swing for the championship. You could say it's a part of my diet if you want. Diet? Kei-chan, are you really that fat? Bet you didn't know. I actually have a beer belly. It's plump and jiggles. Plump and jiggles? I don't like that they repeated that. Reina, you don't have to imagine something weird like that. To disrupt Reina from imagining something that vulgar, I ruffled her hair messily. Well then, I hope you make it to regionals at least. This old man will cheer you on. Regionally speaking, it seems that Oshima High is pretty strong. There we go. They say their southpaw, Kamida-kun, is amazing. Good luck! It seems they've made me out as some kind of local prodigy, but oh well. Well, if I really did make it to the championship, it would be a cinch. After all, I'd be the pitcher and the catcher. I'd pitch the ball, then run past that ball I just threw and change over to being the catcher in a burst of super incredible explosive speed like Sonic the Hedgehog. I laughed dryly at the ludicrous image. Coming back to my senses, I smashed the bat against the ground. Why'd you do that? Damn it! What am I laughing at? You're going crazy in front of your friends, man. He's just beating the ground. I pounded the ground over and over. With each impact, the reverberation... Hold on. The reverberation traveling through the bat stung my hands. That's how I say that word. If they make me smile like that, I'll... Don't allow anyone close to me. Don't trust anyone. No matter how many times I tell myself that, if they make me smile like that, I'll... I already knew quite well that they were demons dwelling within my smiling friends. But I just couldn't believe it. That kind of split personality really exist? Like how Reina confessed to the doctor, were they simply being possessed by Oyashiro-sama? In other words, did a supernatural being like Oyashiro-sama really exist? And was it possessing everyone to try and kill me? Maybe. Yeah, that would be wonderful. If only everyone were actually my friends all along and everything was just Oyashiro-sama's fault. You damn fool, Keiji Maibara, come on now. I yelled out, drawing out all the power from the pit of my stomach and raised the bat violently into the air. Stop being so soft! Soft and squishy. As I screamed out with all my might, I beat the metal bat into the ground over and over. He's going friggin' nuts. With every impact, my weakness was being beaten down. Smash. Forget. Smash. Don't be soft. Smash. Know your enemy. Smash. Like hell I'd let them kill me. My shoulders heaving up and down from my ragged breathing, I heard the first bell ring just as I calmed down. Yeah, he's starting to go insane. Paranoia is setting in. Oh, it's lunchtime already. I gasped with a sudden realization. That was the final bell. Oh, school's over. As I felt all the tension drained from me, I let out a deep breath. My mind was in a muddled state for much of the entire day. I didn't feel like I was awake, but it didn't feel like I was asleep either. I couldn't say it felt especially comfortable, but I felt a kind of relief that the sanctity of school and part of my daily life had yet to be violated. How long would I have to keep on living like this? I could only grit my teeth and bear with it as this living hell slowly gnawed away at me. For the rest of your life, Keiichi. Keiichi-kun, come on. It's club time, club time. The sound of Reina's voice brought me back to my senses. Come on, Kei-chan, stop spacing out. Bring your desk, your desk. Everyone was moving their desks together as usual. That's right, it was happy fun club time. Why'd they write it like that? But I had no intention of taking part. I haphazardly stuffed the contents of my desk into my bags as I prepared to go home. It was a weak-handed gesture to avoid having to actually say, I'll be going home now. Just book it, Keiichi. What's this, Kei-chan? You planning on going home right away again? Mion sounded quite disappointed. I'm just not in the mood. Could you just let me be for a while? The tone of the words that spilled from my mouth matched Mion's disapproving glare. It felt like the air in the room had dried out. Sadako looked like she was about to say something, but perhaps dissuaded by the mood, she swallowed her words and stayed silent. Nobody said a thing. I took that to mean that I could leave if I wanted, but the collective gazes of the four of them, like the tiny pins I used to mount insect in the display, held me in place. Reina was the one who cut through the heavy mood. Keiichi-kun, you just didn't like playing games with girls, I guess. She said it in such a melancholic tone that it sent a wave of pain racing through my heart. If this pain was going to kill me, I wanted it to be the soft part of me that could still feel pain. I tore at my chest, violently tearing out the pins that held me in place. That's not it at all. I'd only be hurting myself by saying anything more, so I swallowed my words, cutting things off here as I turned away and exited the classroom. They didn't speak a word to me as I left. Just book it, Keiichi. Don't look back. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Realizing that, I wiped it down with my sleeve. If something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. Since this morning, I'd become especially sensitive to the presence of cars. I wonder why. Even while walking, my ears pricked up and sought out threatening sounds and presences that could be closing in. And that's why I could hear it. Without a doubt, there were footsteps. Those footsteps had matched up perfectly with mine for a while now. From what I could sense, it was just one person, but I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me like that car this morning until we were in a good location to assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path, crowded with trees, responded with silence as if there was nobody there to begin with. But I wouldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following me. He really is getting paranoid. Either that or somebody is actually following him. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped as well. Oh no. Meaning the person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was, without question, proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waiting for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in the dissonant chorus, trying to throw my focus into disarray. Had 5 minutes passed? Or had it been like this for a whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed like I would be the first one to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of that tree with bated breath. Then I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised it up to my shoulder to be ready to swing at any time. Hey! I know you're there. With all my might, I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees. But the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. I know already. I know you're there. I screamed out angrily at them again, but even still, they didn't move at all. Then I'll go over there myself and dig their ass out of the trees. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree's shadow, I saw a human figure there. That figure was curled up like a small animal. Is it Rika? No, it's Reina. Reina! When she realized I had found her, her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but wasn't going to speak a word. Did you have some business with me? I wouldn't accept that silence and screamed a question at her. Not really, it's just, Reina was in a panic with tears welling up in her eyes. But it was obvious she had been following me. What about the club? Since you're not, I'm not. That shouldn't matter. Don't mind me and just play. But I'm just worried about you. Thinking about how I'd been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behavior could have been perceived as strange. What a surprise. So Reina was concerned. At a quick glance, that's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down that easily. Even if that was really the case, she still wouldn't have to do something like try to tail me. She should have called out to me when I was leaving and gone outright with me. But Reina didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. On top of that, she matched the sound of her footsteps and deviously tried to hide her presence from me. Then, after she realized I noticed she was there, she held her breath as she tried hiding from me. She wore a timid expression that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt, she was tailing me. Stop following me. How? Still glaring at Reina, I continued walking onwards. After I'd walked for a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. I told you not to follow me. But my house is in the same direction. Then walk ahead of me. I'll start walking once I can't see you anymore. I moved out of the way and waved my bat, violently to urge her forward. I'd like to go home together with you. Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out the words in a voice that she knew would cut into my heart. That agitated me to no end. I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. Now you're just blurting out random lies. Liar. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It seemed that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. Even without me saying anything, Reina had understood what I was feeling inside. If you get it, then go. I swung the bat, urging her again to walk. Reina looked back and forth between me and the bat and started walking hesitantly and then stopped again. Go on then, hurry. I'm going, so please stop with the bat. It's scary. Reina guarded herself while pointing at me, holding the bat. She may have realized that I wasn't planning on using this bat for baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her. Go. There's no problem now, is there? Da-da-da. There was nothing else she could protest. She passed by me timidly so as not to set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely after having barely moved at all. Hey, don't stop. Then a powerful gust blew past us, barraging my face with dust. Uh-oh. I don't like where this is going. The dust got in my eyes and clouded my vision. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung blindly with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. Reina didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me? No, she hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so did the silence. At that moment, the voice inside of me immediately warned me of impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed. Without me realizing it, the air around me suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Reina and I were locked in this space. Reina didn't move an inch. The other personality is taking over. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. Reina was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I had just witnessed her shift from Reina into that other person who looks like Reina. But the voice was the one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing that pitiful voice. Well, excuse me, but, can I ask you something? Too shy to even turn around, Reina squeezed her voice out desperately, as she trembled. What? Well, why do you have a bat? I wonder. The question Reina asked was by no means unexpected. I can carry whatever I want. But you didn't have to have one up until today. Why so suddenly? It's alright if I decide to do something suddenly, isn't it? Is it strange that I have a bat? Because, Keiichi, you're not the kind of person to play baseball. It's weird. I couldn't tell what kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her. I just suddenly got the urge to play baseball. Is that so weird? It's weird, she answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly. I just suddenly wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to start practicing my swing, so I'm carrying around a bat. What's strange about that? Strange? Weird. Definitely. Why is Keiichi-kun also? Your ramblings are annoying me. Is it that strange for me to have an interest in sports? I tried to sound a bit more threatening to end the conversation. Keiichi, you are probably the least threatening person I've ever seen. Until my suspicions about Reina were cleared, I had no obligation to answer her questions. I'm sorry. Don't get so angry. Reina still didn't turn around and spat out words of apology one after the next. Just one last thing. Tell me one last thing. I don't feel like talking anymore. Hurry up and go. I yelled loudly at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Reina asked her final question. Why is that bat the same too? What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you saying? I mean, why is even the bat the same? I don't understand what you mean at all. Say it clearly. Even still, Reina didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed. I mean, why is even the bat the same as Satoshi-kun's? It was Satoshi's, I was right. Satoshi being... huh? Upon hearing that name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a brief moment. By Satoshi, did she mean the student who had transferred out last year? No, that couldn't be. Reina had tried to cover it up by saying he transferred, but Oishi-san told me quite clearly that he was missing. He was the student who sat at my seat up until last year, who was believed to have been demoned away by Yashiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed in the night of the Watanagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that he suddenly vanished and was now missing. That Satoshi and I were... what? What, did Satoshi start going crazy as well? My gaze fell to the bat in my hands. Could it be? Satoshi Hojo. It was a bit difficult to see, but that was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. Wait, if you're gonna pick up somebody else's bat, wouldn't you read the damn name on it? How stupid can you be, Keiichi? I see. So this was Satoshi's bat. Oh. This was Satoshi's bat. Since nobody was using it, I borrowed it. That's not a problem, is it? That's not it. The way Reina said that made it seem like this bat was something that should never be touched. It was like some sort of offering at a shrine or a memento of the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed and unable to respond. Reina continued speaking without waiting for a reply. Why is it that you're doing the exact same thing Satoshi-kun did when it happened to him? Reina was talking about more than just a bat belonging to Satoshi. It was the same with Satoshi-kun. He joined a baseball team, but he didn't really like baseball. What does that have to do with me? Satoshi-kun also suddenly started walking around with a bat one day. He joined a team, but he wasn't the type to play sports. What about it? I closed my mouth before I could say that out loud. So, Satoshi... this is what I'm thinking was happened. Satoshi went crazy, got very paranoid, started carrying the bat around, then he went missing, and now Keiichi is doing the same exact thing that Satoshi was doing, and now Keiichi's gonna go missing. Listen carefully, Keiichi. Reina is trying to tell us something important. Satoshi-kun also one day came to school all by himself all of a sudden, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly started practicing his swing, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly began carrying the bat around with him, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day he suddenly disappeared. One day he suddenly what? Reina had swallowed her words. Reina's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then that I could finally digest the content of the entire conversation. She was saying my chain of actions was exactly the same as Satoshi's. What was the meaning of this? Up until just now, I'd forgotten all about Satoshi. I'd never paid much thought to him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he'd done. My actions today should have been my own creation after all the planning I'd done. There are no original thoughts here. you've repeated the same thing over and over. But they had been the exact same as Satoshi's? And Satoshi, no, more importantly, if both Satoshi and I acted the same, then there was a really good possibility that what happened after would be the same. Reina, that day, what happened to Satoshi? Reina knew. She knew what became of Satoshi. No, forget about what happened to a guy in the past. Reina knew what was going to happen. To me. Answer me, Reina. Satoshi, what happened to him? With that, I grabbed Reina's shoulder violently and forced her to turn around to face me. She's got the blank stare. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body. I told you, Keiichi-kun. It was that person that I didn't know. At least, it definitely wasn't the Reina Ryugu I had been talking to up until now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion that it had had before. The amount of regret I felt for turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. That gaze that pierced like a cold needle, that smile on her face having evoked an image of having been carved out by a knife. Chills went down my spine, my mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Reina's eyes pierced through mine, leaving me unable to look away. As if to remind me that the fear from that time before, Reina brought her face close to mine, so close that I could feel her breath. Her face had filled my entire field of vision. Then her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper, like the curve of a crescent moon. She grinned. That's creepy. I told you, Keiichi-kun. After a short pause, Reina repeated the same words again. Satoshi-kun, you see, transferred out. Transferred meaning what? What Reina must have meant must have been some new definition of transfer that I was previously not aware of. My throat and lips dried up. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my own saliva. It would seem that Reina saw that as a nod. She pulled her gaze back and spryly stepped back 2-3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell to my knees pathetically. Reina and me on my knees underneath her emotionless smile. That had to be a very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in that pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. But I could neither stand nor escape with her gaze shooting through my eyes. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand, but right now it was useless to me. I was like a fly caught in her web. Heavy sweat beaded all over my body, and I could feel it dripping from my skin. But you won't, will you, Keiichi-kun? Reina finally released me from that cage of time after what felt like an eternity. But her question was missing something important and was incredibly vague. Once again, I swallowed hard, urging her on. Do what? What did she not want me to do? Well, she doesn't want you to go missing, of course. Transfer. Is that the end of the chapter? Because that's a pretty good ending to that chapter. Oh, nope, it just keeps continuing. Satoshi and I had what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself and carried around every day to practice his swing. Then, one day, suddenly, he died. Nah, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? She meant that they're gonna disappear you. Before I knew it, I was at my front door. Gotta take a sip of some water here. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached in my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my fur seal keychain. And it goes inside. I stepped into the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. It's Mion. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there even though they're behind you? Sometimes you can just tell. Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I hear the sound of them blinking. Yeah, that's a little creepy, man. You're going paranoid. Keiichi Maibara, there's no way you could hear that. It was mostly instinct than anything else that was warning me of the presence. Come on. Common sense was what was telling me that it was just my imagination. If it was just my imagination, there was nobody behind me, I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to do that simple task. All right, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that would have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. Until they answer back. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. Is it Rika? I didn't know who, but... A tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. All the force in my body released from my lungs and through my throat, seizing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible, but they looked like they weren't there. But were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. Yeah, he's going batshit crazy. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of the metal flashed as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. Who'd he smack? Nobody. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left, crushing the door. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extricated the bat from the cupboard it was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. He's going fucking insane, like... My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. He's just beating the shit out of everything in his house. Crack! Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy there, but not there, dispersed. When I was certain the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. Had it only feigned retreat and was now inside my house? Quit being so damn paranoid, Keiichi. Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for a presence. But it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All of the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Now you gotta go fix your dang shoe cupboard there, because you broke it, loser. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest. Exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition that I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. Watching. Waiting. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. When I asked, "Who is it?" and they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by the supernatural phenomenon known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, then that would mean admitting that it was Reina and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable. But as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oishi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse or not, there was no merit to doing it. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened there to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused in what I thought I was composed. I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if that was what really happened? I would be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. He's simply insane. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Reina and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Reina and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. By denying both of those, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be the bestest buddies with Reina and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. Phone call? Hello? Hello? The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Keiichi, this is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. I know the feeling. Keiichi. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds, actually, but they refused since the individual packs were expensive. So instead, I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger-flavored ones I liked. Well, my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Keiichi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Huh? Right now? This was really abrupt and a very convenient plot point. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. It's quite the drive. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. What a surprise. Now that she mentioned it, I do remember that they talked all the time about his job prospects weren't looking so good. Daddy is really sensitive about things like this, so if he leaves things as they are, it will affect his work. Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality, his emotions changed as easily as the fall sky. You know, Keiichi, I think you have that trait as well. You could also just say that he couldn't take criticism. But something like that can be done over the phone. Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about it in person. So there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. That's true, it's far easier to communicate someone in person than over the phone. As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Talk about foreshadowing. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday, I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. What a surprise. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. Except getting taken to a shrink. That'd probably happen. But I didn't plan on dying. But at least not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off. Yeah, see you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure to wake up and eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah, see ya. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings. But Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance, and it never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say those circumstances didn't feel strange or rather unnatural. Anyway, I only need to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was a good idea that the only light on in the house was from my room on the second floor. So he went and turned on all the lights in the entire house. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone and this was their chance. First, I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I similarly turned down the lights and some music. With this from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went to the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah! The garage! They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to the Okinomiya station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. Who leaves their garage open when they leave? Like, who does that? You close it before you leave your house and you lock it, like a normal person would. I panicked and rushed out the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. Ah! I needed to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since they were left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything in the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it, with enough force to break it in half somehow. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. I remembered there was a broom and dustpan in the closet, and as I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now, they might say they'll call again, or to tell her that they want, or to tell her to call them when she comes back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with more telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It's like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing that this was the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. Is it Oishi? You bastard. This is Oishi from the I cannot say this word for some reason. Okinomiya bookstore. Oishi-san? Is that you, Maibara-san? Good evening. Good to hear you're doing well. Wait just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable headset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was, since there was no one else home, but I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Any changes since then? Since then? When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke with Oishi-san was 2 days ago. Not a long time has passed. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital, and we headed into town for lunch and had a talk. Then after that, Reina and Mion came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may well be found out by them as well. Hello? Can you hear me, Maibara-san? Huh? Sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There wasn't an answer, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that had happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This might be when my parents weren't home. I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely, after all. Well, Oishi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really? It could all just be coincidence, but that day I missed school was when I was sick. The two of them came to check up on me. Which two? Reina and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole to thread string through. Not that, Maibara-san. The needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? Pretty sure he threw it away. That's right, that's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror, but that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. I had certainly thrown the mochi and needle at the wall together. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleaned the living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desks, pulling up the carpet, and then flapping it around. But I couldn't find the needle. What a loser. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know that day they collected the burnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed into the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. Wow. He just dumped his trash all over the floor. What a loser. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. At least, like, spread out a tarp in the garage and then pour it out on that, so that way you don't get, crap everywhere. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know, I'll try running my hand through it and let it stab me in the fingers. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'll be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash with my hand. It's like slapping it. Slapping the trash. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I couldn't keep Oishi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. Then I dashed upstairs where I'd been keeping Oishi-san waiting for too long. Hello? How did it go? I couldn't find it. Like a loser. I was really overwhelmed back then, and I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right, the needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Ishii-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, that van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn! I just flipped out yelling at him back then, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the plate number? I was so focused just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, somehow annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry, I don't know much more than that. It was a white van. Nothing to fret about, Maibara-san. Anyone would be shaken up after being hit. I guess all of this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Da-da-da. Oishi-san started to hem and haw over the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Reina is acting strange. How so? Well, Reina said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence, that Reina knew what had happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him just simply disappearing. Reina knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Reina said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out? Reina said Satoshi transferred out. So, given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Maibara-san, that was probably some sort of threat, or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened up until now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Reina and the others, I was left with Oyashiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only better explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san. Except, Reina's strange behavior could be proof of either scenario. Whether it was Oyashiro-sama's curse being real, or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all the villagers, Reina was involved. Reina had to know something. Reina was suspicious. What exactly was Reina? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with the prior string of mysterious deaths. I seemed to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug a little into Reina's past. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little, meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Reina. I wanted to know what had happened at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Reina was somebody I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight, I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I had felt just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residences close to the Maibara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament and the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. Ding dong, death is here. I wondered if I would still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now? Because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Why is he just ignoring the doorbell? Oishi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he was so far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Reina, about what had happened at her previous school. Is he still ignoring the doorbell? Actually, regarding Reina's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. It's the doorbell, you stupid idiot. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put in, making it look like my parents were home. I needed to answer the door. Hello, Maibara-san. Sorry, someone seems to be at the door. I'm going to go see who it is. A guest. I see, my apologies. Should we end this phone call now? That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine, I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down to the door. I needed to make up a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oishi-san did. In which case it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. I'll just say mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. Okay, if they were a regular neighbor, why would they keep pressing the doorbell over and over again? It's Reina, she's waiting for you. That would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom up if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I'd prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining that it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. But nope, it's Reina. Waiting. Konbanwa. Good evening. Reina. There shouldn't be any reason for Reina to come over at this hour. Oh, I dropped my notepad. Sad. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Reina. She knows. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence. But those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing this old man doesn't know. We're watching. Are you alone, Reina? Yeah. It seems that Mion wasn't with her. But that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here? Hey, Keiichi-kun, I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come inside, I wonder? It was true that speaking through a chain door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate. But at my house, the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it. Da-da-da. Then it can't be helped, I guess. Reina pouted rather sadly. But she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Reina enough to remove the chain and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Reina. Unless she's got a pair of bolt cutters. Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get into the entranceway. Have you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun? No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home and was woken up by the phone, and didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was going to have cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it? Then good, Star. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes. Reina held out a stack of boxes wrapped in a cloth. If I could just use your kitchen, I can heat up the miso soup and other stuff. Star. It's fine, you don't need to do that. But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Keiichi-kun not like that type of stuff, I wonder? There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root, potatoes, dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible. I also brought rice, so if you microwave it, you can eat it really quickly. Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh yes, how wonderful it is to be born Japanese. I wouldn't know. I'm American. We eat greasy burgers that clog our arteries. Also, I made some more pickles, Star. I made some sansai pickles this time. That must be a certain prefecture in Japan. Before I moved here to Hinamizawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. The vegetables from the supermarket were tasteless and bland compared to these. If you had to describe them, then they were vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert such as myself, you first had to partake of sansai. It was common knowledge around here that the Ryugu family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they were, they'd go well with that fluffy white rice. Is she really going to get inside just because he's hungry? And also, but wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. So delicious. It just seems so delicious. Farewell to my unhealthy self, who said he'd make do with cup noodles. Reina appeared to be in good spirits, and she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my wariness of Reina suddenly dwindled. Reina did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside, though the possibility that it was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then. But the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Reina, speaking of this charming dinner, was dependent on one premise. And that premise was that tonight dinner hadn't been made at my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, it would be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings for the meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Reina, did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also the chance this was a bluff. If I had turned on the lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here, there was a chance that Reina was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. There was plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Reina didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there's no reason for me to confess that right now, to try holding on to the fact that as long as I could, first of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Reina wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Also, there's like a pile of garbage behind him that he hasn't cleaned up. Like, I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready soon. Huh? Is that so? It certainly doesn't smell like anything's cooking. Is that so? I know you went through all the effort and everything, but, well, unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But some of this could work as side dishes, I think. I'm sorry, we have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few sides. So... Huh? You have side dishes? With a smile that bordered on a cringe, I dodged her question apologetically. That's a joke that Keiichi is cheating on Reina, because a side dish is generally how you would refer to the side chick. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up on my back again. I spoke as if my mom was setting down dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Reina was saying. Reina was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of it as well. So, Keiichi-kun can cook. What did you make, I wonder? No, well, it's not that. Reina had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I had made them, but rather that my mom hadn't. Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun? It wasn't me who made them. Keiichi, you've already been caught in a lie. My mom did. No, she's making them. Right now. ... So you see, I'm sorry, but I can't eat what you brought. Reina fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes. How about I try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be? Instant noodles. It doesn't matter what I'm going to eat. Let's see. The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Reina was firmly in control. It felt like I was being interrogated. Your dinner, I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water? Hey now, stop with the insults. I can't believe you'd belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out, full capacity already, it's that amazing. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grip my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Reina showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness. Keiichi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner? No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner, she's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Reina had taken that assertion of mine that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. Because she knows that you're alone right now, Keiichi Maibara. She's going to murder you. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Reina became. Hey, Keiichi-kun. At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept in from the gap in the doorway. Is your mom home, I wonder? Because I don't smell anything getting cooked in the kitchen. I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Reina, she knew full well that my parents weren't home. But I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and we'd be having dinner soon, and that was the situation I'd concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Keiichi's mom called Reina and told her that she was going to be gone. Reina's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid stare. Why? Huh? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but that facade was torn off me the instant I looked into Reina's eyes. That look, it informed me of Reina's response faster than she could open her mouth. Why have you been lying to me? I wonder. I'm not lying. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! Reina's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Reina and I were still separated by what few inches that slightly ajar but still chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me. Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see. I knew now that Reina had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she would be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Reina said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know that it was instant cup noodles? That's right, isn't it? That I was going to eat. Wait. The cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles, after all. This is just advice that everyone should learn how to cook. Learn how to cook. It'll save you from getting murdered by your psychopathic girlfriend. Looking at this statistically, it was the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing. I don't think you'll be full with just noodles. I think having rice and stuff will definitely hit the spot. Calm down, Keiji Maibara. This was just coincidence. Reina was just reading certain tells of mine. So the fact that she was inferring what I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. If I was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist. Don't worry, Keiichi, they do, and they're coming for you. You like them? Do you mean noodles? No. Blank. Reina indicated the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand the words Reina had spoken. I don't know what she said. Sorry, Reina. What did you say just now? Huh? About what? You just asked me if there was something I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I'd pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer, that's why I wasn't able to comprehend it. Pork bone and ginger flavored noodles. She knows everything. I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. That was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Reina know even this? Not even caring that I mashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Reina. But she still didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that? Why, I wonder? Quite strange, isn't it? Isn't it? How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How did you know? Why do you know? Answer me. You bought them at 7th Mart, didn't you? A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering up with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that? I was behind you, following you the whole time. What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time. And that's because Reina was right behind Keiichi-kun's back. The whole time. Just, right behind him, just... Like that night? That night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with the Oishi-san. I didn't even sense her being there, standing behind the door, behind me, standing there, just like that. Being creepy. When Keiichi-kun was picking out the noodles, I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many different flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you're going to pick the expensive ones, then you should have picked one type, she said. Then Keiichi-kun picked out that big box of pork bone and ginger flavor that he loves so much, didn't he, Star? I like it too. Pork bone noodles. But I could never eat a whole big bowl myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling to non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then I could understand what Reina was saying and started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down, and it didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards. And as I withdrew, Reina advanced. So, Keiichi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together, Star. I'm sure it's going to be delicious, so, okay. Look, if you're going to stare at me like that, I'm probably not going to eat dinner with you. You're terrifying. That scares me. Reina's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Reina didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. She was doing her hardest to light the fuse to the powder keg in my heart, trying again and again. Clatter, clatter. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up. Keiichi-kun. Please go away. I beg you, please go away. How can you say something so mean, I wonder? Please go away. Go away. Go away! The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering, it just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Reina momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. But the slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. And the source of that was Reina's fingers. Please tell me he's not going to close the door on her fingers. Each of those fingers were wriggling, squirming around like the tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. It hurts, Keiichi-kun, it hurts. Ugh. It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp she was trying to keep back. Go away, go away, go away. I kept pulling on the door with all my might. I didn't realize that if I didn't loosen the pull on the door at least momentarily, Reina wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that's why the door wasn't closing. It really hurts, Keiichi-kun. I'm sorry if I was messing around too much. Ugh. I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. It didn't change anything. It hurts. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away. He can't close the door because he's closed it on her fingers. Reina couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I trapped her fingers. Reina's white fingers had become deep red and were no longer even squirming. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away, please. Just leave. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Reina's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away. Go away. Go away. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, he's going insane. Please tell me he's not going to cut her fingers off by closing the door. I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Reina's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed loudly, and I could hear the thud of Reina falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. It made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Reina. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun, I'm sorry. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Reina leaned against the door, apologizing profusely and nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Reina echoing her apology. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Those pitiful words, they would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. That wasn't out of any sort of malice. I just felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Reina. Before Mion had threatened me at this doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now at the same place, Reina had told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents weren't home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out, and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Reina as possible. One step, 2 steps, with each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Reina repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. There was something in my bed? It's the phone, dumbass. It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I had talked with Reina for so long, how did almost no time pass? But the hand of the clock was ticking forward 1 second every second as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time, which felt frozen, began moving once again. Hello, Oishi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oishi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was. Reina came just now. Did she come to play? ... I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san. But I didn't need to right now. Right now, I needed to know about Reina. That's right. I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Reina, but Reina's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false, I couldn't tell. The one thing I knew was the single grim reality that Reina was suspicious. I might be able to figure out something if I asked Oishi-san about her. Up until now, I had regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There's no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather, I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Regarding Reina Ryugu-san, I did a bit of digging. Yeah, well, it wasn't much. I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't think you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though. Oishi-san. I spoke as calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it. I think Reina Ryugu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents were from Oyashiro-sama's curse, Reina Ryugu is involved. Do you have some sort of proof that makes you believe Reina-san is suspicious? The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when he felt a bite, only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line once more. That's how it seemed. Oishi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine. It's fine, Maibara-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit reassuring. Oishi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That was all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Oishi-san went silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please, tell me. Tell me about Reina. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Reina called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't even been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maibara-san, please calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bad Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then I at least wanted to know about what happened before Reina transferred schools. You're aware that this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing that I'll find uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay. Please keep this confidential. Yeah, spreading other people's personal information is not good. Very much not bueno. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true. I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Reina Ryugu has never been linked to any of the investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Reina done by the police, and is a personal inquiry, is what you're telling me? This will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is either from phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take all this with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of it is just from what you heard? Yes, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing before, you said you saw Reina's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too? Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if there were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire, after all. Please, tell me, Oishi-san. Understood. Oishi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Reina lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to the Ibaraki prefecture after she finished elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Reina confided to the doctor. It was a Yashiro-sama. This was all that he knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maibara-san. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident that happened just after she transferred. The incident Reina was responsible for and what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Reina and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So, they're the ones after all? No, that's not what I mean by suspect them. What? Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring. Then, who did you suspect? That it was Oyashiro-sama. Huh? That Oyashiro-sama's curse really exists. Yeah, right, well... Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Oishi-san resumed the conversation. About the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance. The course of events up until the start of delving into Reina's past. Just then, there was a thunder in the distance, and a heavy rain started pouring down. It came without warning, rain so heavy it felt like it could beat you down. I left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out, and the violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly. What is it? Nothing. It just suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry, please continue. I got up while still on the phone and closed the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk. Regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly that it had permanent damage. It could have been the school or possibly some individual who made arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maibara-san, can you hear me? There was a figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Reina's just standing there. Menacingly. just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was the stack of boxes, wrapped in cloth. Her eyes, focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be, at this time, I was more enthralled by Reina instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, then I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Reina, nor would I have noticed that. Reina's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something, she was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? And why was I right up against the window, fixated on her? Hello? Maibara-san, can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. Huh, Maibara-san? I'm sorry. 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 Hello? Maibara-san? What's the matter? Given this torrential downpour, Reina was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand, blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Reina's relentless apologies still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. They're both going crazy, aren't they? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Damn it! Why did I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive, won't forgive. I won't forgive. Maibara-san, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? That's just it. That's so friggin' creepy. I have to say, the visual novel is far better than the anime. I've received new tips. Alright. Let's go ahead and read the tips, and then I think I will end this chapter here. Because this is almost 2 hours, so let's go ahead and read the tips, and then save our game. Split personality. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape? That's difficult to say. There are some who agree with that and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon, something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find that those who develop it, or rather, those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials. Always with the commercial breaks, man. At the 7th mark, when Reina was creeping on us. The 7th Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol, my favorite things. What's this, Keiji? So many. There's no reason to get all these different kinds, is there? I flopped all different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in the big case. It's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. Then I'd only get to eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I'd already given up inside. I wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched cases of noodles for what I want. Pork bone and ginger, large cup. Hey, Keiichi, can't you get a normal one? Yeah, that's English. If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. Pork bone is good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. What the hell is going on? In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around at my surroundings. So I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Reina. I rewound the situation, searching. But of course, I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying at me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they please. There was nobody looking over this way and no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Then I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror unlike any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening... Oops. I almost knocked over my water bottle. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store, searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now, after the fact, was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, tip-tap, tip-tap. Pit-pat, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. It's Reina, following him. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. Okay, we get the picture. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind mine. Me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I had heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That's why I didn't turn around. If only I'd turned around, I would have seen who was following me. Oh no. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had ran at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Creeping. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That is why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there, stupidly. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? Nope, it's getting nice and close to you. There was no sound other than that. At the time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light. Except my body couldn't move. This is sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible? Now that's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved. So you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move. So you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules, dang it. Pit-pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again, getting nice and close. The hair on the back of my neck pricked up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move, like how the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized. I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time. But I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, as it began to administer a pain like a needle being struck into every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I think he's scared. He has to repeat himself. Quite a bit. A scream I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes, it was like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice. The way you would do with an apple, my mind was being eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices because it was like an apple. Meaning what was in front of me was... I don't know. What's in front of him? What? What was that? What was that? What? There's got to be more to it than that, right? Like, and back to the rain. All right, I think this is where I'm going to end this episode. Like I said earlier, I do hope you enjoyed it. Did make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I do plan on doing this at least probably once a week, twice a week maybe, because I really want to finish this. And I think I'll try and keep all the episodes to about 2 hours, because usually I can get about 2 chapters done in that time. This chapter was very, very long, so I only got 1 chapter in. But I think the next chapter will be the last chapter of Onikakushi. And then I'll go back and reread the first, I think, 7 chapters, because I live stream those. And then we will move on to the next book, which I do not remember the name of at the current moment. But I'll know that next time, maybe, hopefully, if I'm not stupid. Oh, let's go ahead and drop a save, too. Because it's important to always save your game. But, yep, that's it. I'll see you all later, and have a good one. Bye-bye.